All right, guys, let's get right down to it. ROH in 2006. Don't remember a lot of these shows. It's been a long time since I've seen some of them, so I'll do the best I can. All right, Weekend of Champions Night 1, pretty average show. You know, you get Nigel versus Christopher Daniels. Pretty good match. I mean, thing about this is kind of disappointing considering it's the only time these two guys face each other. The ending was pretty crappy. So, Bryan Danielson, Jimmy Yang. You know, Jimmy Yang was pretty. His ROH run was pretty unappreciated. He really didn't get that over, but him and Danielson had a pretty good match. You know, another pretty good title defense from Danielson. It was a mid-card title match, so that's pretty much what it was. Austin Aries, Roderick Strong versus Samoa Joe, Matt Sydal. Match of the night. Matt Sydal was really put over here, but Aries and Strong still retained the belt, so that was a pretty good match. Then we had the main event. ROH versus CZW, Adam Pearce, BJ Whitmer, Colt Cabana, Ace Steel versus Claudio, Necro, and Nate Webb. You know, this is another good ROH CZW brawl. I pretty much enjoyed it. It did a good job. You know, it did its job of you know, escalating the feud to another level. BJ Whitmer was taken out, got a pretty bad injury. So Weekend of Champions Night 1, I say it's an average show, but you know, it's kind of underrated. It's not bad, but it's okay. Next up, you have Weekend of Champions Night 2, which in my opinion is a pretty good show. You know, you had Delirious and Chris Sabin, which was really fun. Samoa Joe and Claudio Castagnoli. Not a lot of intensity. It kind of dragged a little bit. Not that great, actually. You know, they were trying to establish Claudio as a mega heel. So, BJ Whitmer Super Dragon was a pretty good match, actually. 3.5 stars, pretty brutal. The ending was insane. BJ Whitmer does the exploder off the top rope through a table. Excellent finish. Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. They had tons of matches in 2006. They pretty much had the same match over and over again. You know, easily another 3.5 star match from them. Pretty good stuff. You know, yeah, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness, ROH champion versus the Pure champion for the very first time. This is an excellent match. One of the better Bryan Danielson Nigel matches. In my opinion, I actually think it's better than Glory by Honor. The finish here was sick. Definitely check it out. Nigel actually retained by countout to retain the Pure title. Then Austin Aries and Roderick Strong defended the belts again against Alex Shelley and Jimmy Rave. Not that great, you know, a solid match though. Pretty good main event. Not bad, but not great. Next up we have How We Roll. How We Roll is not a good show in my opinion. It was pretty bad. A lot of average matches. You know, the thing about this show is you know, Christian Cage came out with the TNA Championship, the NWA Championship. A great promo between Bryan Danielson and Christian Cage, which was probably the only reason to maybe pick up this show if you want it, but I wouldn't recommend it. You know, Bryan Danielson was kind of disappointed that the fans were cheering Christian because, you know, he said, if you cheer Christian, then you're supporting corporate America because, you know, Christian was the TNA champion. Then, you know, you had Roderick Strong and Austin Aries faced the Briscoes in singles matches. So you had Strong versus Mark Briscoe, which was okay, but not great. Jay Briscoe, Austin Aries, kind of disappointed since I heard it was a good match, but it really wasn't that great. Maybe like 3.25 stars for both of those matches. And then the main event was kind of a house show main event feel, you know. Yeah, Christian Cage and Colt Cabana teaming up to face Christopher Daniels and Bryan Danielson. You know, it was good, but, you know, like I said, it had a house show feel to it, maybe 3.5 stars. Still some pretty good wrestling, some good interaction. A pretty fun main event, so I like the main event, but How We Roll, it's pretty much a skippable show. Next up, we have Ring of Homicide, which is excellent. Everyone check this out. It's an awesome show. Definitely in the top 10 shows of 2006. You know, you have Homicide's face turn. Let me talk about the Homicide stuff first, you know. Because he got screwed so many times, he was hesitant about joining ROH. But on this show, he decided to join ROH and take on CZW. Main event was an impromptu match between Homicide and Necro Butcher, which was insane. You know, people were throwing chairs in the ring. The crowd was really hot for it. You know, Homicide's face turn went over really, really well. So this is where it happened. You know, you had Nigel McGuinness and Jay Lethal for the Pure title, which was awesome. While it lasted, I thought it was pretty good. A little bit too short, but it was really, really good. Bryan Danielson versus Delirious. One of the Danielson's best title defenses of 2006. I know you guys might think I'm crazy, but if you see the match, you'll know why. It's a really, really fun match. And the crowd interaction was great. You know, for those people that think Danielson has no charisma, you need to watch this match. You know, fans were chanting to Danielson. They were calling him a TNA reject. So Danielson just stops what he's doing and goes like, for your information, buddy, TNA didn't reject me. I rejected TNA, so fuck off. I don't know. I thought that was awesome. You know, Danielson was great in this match. Really, really fun. Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal, another pretty good match between them. You know, like I said, they kind of had the same match over and over again. I can't really remember anything different about this one. Then you had Austin Aries and Roderick Strong versus the Briscoes. it was okay. You know, not as good as their Unified match, but you know, it did its job of setting up a nice rematch between the two teams. So that's Ring of Homicide. Like I said, an excellent show. Next up, we have Destiny. Destiny's pretty average, but there's some good stuff on it. You know, you had David Richards making his ROH debut to take on Jimmy Rave, which was an awesome match, I thought. 3.5 stars. Then you had Christopher Daniels and BJ Whitmer. Probably BJ Whitmer's one of his best matches in ROH. And I thought the aftermath was really cool because they played off the Prophecy stuff, you know, because BJ Whitmer used to be in the Prophecy with Christopher Daniels. Then you had Bryan Danielson Homicide for the ROH World title. Awesome match. Easily better than all their matches from the Best of 5 series from 2005. Homicide actually was screwed in this match. You know, the referee stopped the match after Bryan Danielson was giving him elbow blows, but Homicide never tapped out or never said I quit or never even passed out. So definitely sets up the match from Final Battle nicely, and Homicide lost his mind after this match. So yeah, that was pretty good. Then you had Austin Aries and Roderick Strong versus the Briscoes. Pretty good match. You know, it was better than the Ring of Homicide match. Really, really good main event, like 3.75 stars. So definitely check it out. Next up, we have In Your Face. In Your Face is an okay show. You know, I thought it had a great main event, but the undercard was kind of underwhelming. You know, you had David Richards and Jimmy Rave, another pretty good match. You had Austin Aries and Roderick Strong taking on Nigel, McGuinness, and Colt Cabana for the tag team titles. I like this. I thought this was excellent. Roderick Strong made Nigel tap out to the Stronghold. Pretty much sets up a match between those two guys. So I thought that was an excellent tag team match. Probably the second best match on the show. Then you had Jimmy Jacobs and BJ Whitmer. Once again, BJ kills Jimmy Jacobs. Does a power bomb to him off the top of the turnbuckle into the crowd onto the ROH training guys. You know, the guys that go to the ROH wrestling school. So then you had Homicide and Chris Hero. A little bit too long, but you know, Homicide was pretty good in this match. You know, he talked about how he wanted to win the ROH title before the end of the year, or he guaranteed that he would win the ROH title before the end of the year. Then you had Kenta, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, a three-way non-title match, so the title is not at stake here. Kenta went over here. It was an excellent match. All these guys got the shit beaten out of him. I think Bryan Danielson got a concussion from the go to sleep. It was pretty hard-hitting. It was pretty brutal. Excellent main event. Kenta goes over and sets up the Glory of Honor match between Kenta and Bryan Danielson pretty nicely. So next up we have Throwdown, which is a pretty bad show, actually. Awesome double main event, but undercard is pretty weak. Best match from the undercard was the Four Corner Survival match. I thought David Richards looked awesome in that match. He was pretty good in 2006. I know I've said plenty of times that he was great in 2009. That 2009 was his breakout year, but he was still pretty awesome back then. Then you have Bryan Danielson, BJ Whitmer, and Jimmy Jacobs in a three-way elimination match. Pretty good story going into it because Jacobs and Whitmer hated each other, and some really, really good combination spots. All three of them, you know, used the triple threat to their advantage and put on a great match. BJ Whitmer was the first guy to get eliminated. Then it came down to Bryan Danielson and Jacobs. The stuff between them was really good, and Danielson retains easily a 4-star match. I think this is the match of the night, actually, so definitely check it out. Kenta versus Roderick Strong, excellent match, 4 stars. Better than their HD Net match, but still, you know, I wasn't totally blown away by it. Kind of a predictable win that Kenta would win it, but still awesome match, though, so check it out. Next up, you had Shytown Struggle. It was a pretty good show. Not great, but pretty good. Roderick Strong and Jimmy Jacobs. Excellent match. These guys almost stole the show out there. Pretty good stuff. Samoa Joe and Delirious. It was pretty fun, but it was short. The Nigel McGuinness Homicide match. Pretty methodical, but it was pretty good, though. You know, you had Homicide actually got counted out, so he thought he got screwed. So that was that. Then you had Kenta versus Austin Aries. Excellent match. I thought it was better than Kenta and Roderick Strong, actually. Nice little dream match there. Definitely delivered. Really good stuff. Bryan Danielson, Colt Cabana in Chicago. Colt Cabana's hometown. Excellent match. Definitely sets up the gut check match pretty nicely. Danielson actually gets the win with a small package. People thought Colt Cabana got screwed. Crowd was really hot for this, so definitely check it out. Next. And finally, we get Death Before Dishonor 4, the Cage of Death show. This is an excellent show. You know, you had Briscoes and Irish Airborne. Easily 4 stars, probably their best match, or probably Irish Airborne's best match in ROH. AJ Styles, David Richards, pretty good. I mean, AJ wasn't that great in 2006 in ROH. He really didn't do much, but him and David Richards had a nice, solid match. You could definitely see David Richards' potential. Pretty short and sweet. Then you had Roderick Strong and Nigel McGuinness for the Pure title. I think this might be their best match ever. was pretty hard hitting. It was really, really stiff. Uh, I liked the finish. I liked everything about this match. Probably Nigel's best pure title match up to that point. 4 stars easily. Check that match out. All right, then the main event. You get the Cage of Death. ROH for CZW. This match was excellently booked. I think it's probably one of the highlights of Gabe's booking career. You had Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson teaming up out there. Then actually, Bryan Danielson took out Samoa Joe, took out his legs. Didn't really turn on ROH, but he had to defend the belt against Joe in an upcoming match. So he took Joe out. So Jim Cornette came out, got pissed off. Then the middle of the match kind of dragged a little bit. It really didn't pick up until Homicide came out. Once Homicide came out, the crowd went crazy, and the match just got really, really good. Chris Hero did a moonsault at the top of the cage, and then Homicide finally got the win. He did the cop killer to Nate Webb on a set of barbed wire. So that was pretty cool. And this is just a great match, and I thought it was really cool. The Cage of Death and ROH made for a really nice set.